one of the most important shortcuts in global trade is not being squeezed by a blockade or a war or a rival fleet. It is being squeezed by a shortage of rain. Every single ship that crosses the Panama Canal drains tens of millions of liters of fresh water into the sea, and lately the canal has been running dangerously low. First, the geography. The Panama Canal cuts across the narrowest point of Central America, joining the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. Without it, a ship sailing between the two would have to travel all the way around the southern tip of South America. But here is the part most people miss. The canal is not a simple ditch at sea level. It is a staircase of water. Ships are lifted up by a series of locks to a large artificial lake high above the oceans, sailed across that lake, then lowered down the other side. And each time a ship is raised or lowered, the locks release an enormous volume of fresh water downhill and out to sea. That water comes from rain, only rain. Now, why this became a crisis? 3 things came together. First, drought. The lake that feeds the canal depends on heavy seasonal rainfall, and recent years have brought severe dry spells, worsened by a shifting climate and the El Nino weather pattern. Second, the locks lost water as the lake fell. The Canal Authority faced a hard choice to save water. It cut the number of ships allowed to cross each day and limited how heavily loaded each ship could be. Third, the lake is also drinking water. That same reservoir supplies fresh water to millions of people in Panama. So every ship that transits is, in a real sense, competing with a population for the same finite supply. When the canal slows down, the effects ripple outward fast. Shipping companies face a choice: wait in a long queue for a crossing slot, pay steep fees to jump ahead, or give up and sail the long way around. All 3 options cost money. During the worst of the recent drought, the fees to secure a crossing soared, and some shippers paid extraordinary sums simply to skip the line. Others rerouted entirely around South America or through other canals, adding days and fuel and cost. A shortage of rain in one small country became, in effect, a tax on goods moving between the world's 2 largest oceans. Climate had become a trade barrier. The canal is not only a trade route, it is a strategic asset, and great powers are watching it closely. The United States built the canal more than a century ago, controlled it for decades, and handed full control to Panama. At the end of the 20th century, today, the canal sits inside great power rivalry. Washington treats it as vital to its own commerce and navy, and watches with concern as Chinese companies have built and operated ports and infrastructure at both ends of it. Control of the approaches to a waterway this important is a strategic question, and a drought-weakened canal, one that cannot move ships reliably, becomes a vulnerability. Every rival takes note of three forces now sit over the canal. 1. The climate itself. If drought years become more frequent, the canal's reliability erodes, and a shortcut that cannot be trusted is only half a shortcut. 2. The engineering answer. Panama is studying major projects to secure new water sources for the canal, damming additional rivers, building new reservoirs. But such projects are costly, slow, and disruptive to communities. 3. The strategic shadow. As long as the canal stays vital, who controls its ports and its approaches will remain a great power question. The Panama Canal was one of the great engineering victories over geography, but it runs on rain, and rain can no longer be assumed. A warming, less predictable climate is quietly throttling one of the busiest shortcuts on Earth, and reminding the world that even the routes we built with our own hands still depend on the weather above them. That was Panama. Briefly, subscribe to World Briefly for more focused explainers on the next regional story that matters. Yes, in final line, no cadence promise.